Welcome to Brief History Conspiracy.
This week, Gobekli Tepe.
See, 5% more energy, all that's needed. So yes, please, if you're new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help us. And so a very advanced, but also it shows that this site was incredibly important to these people, because that would have been, I imagine,
A laborious
incredibly
task.
difficult to do.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about laborious task. They believe these rocks that weighed 10 tons were chipped out of the bedrock using flint knives, basically, like flint points. So you just have the rock. Now, it's relatively soft rock compared to like granite or something. It's not like that, but it still would have been incredibly time consuming, and possibly, I don't believe it. So, these stones are incredibly straight, they're incredibly smooth in places, even now today, and it's supposed to have been chipped away by hand with little flint.
Yes,
things.
well, many of the sites containing monolithic blocks appear to, or the stones, sorry, appear to have been machine tooled, in my opinion. There's no other way you get the perfect finish that you see on so many of these different sites, on so many of these huge blocks that they've carved out of. And yeah, to say, for the example, the Egyptian pyramids and you know, the diorite stones that they used for the internal structure of the pyramids, that again are perfect, look like they're machine tooled, were chipped out using copper chisels.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about this when we get into series 2 in the pyramids. This is going to be a big topic of this construction methods that we don't believe, and then we'll go around the world with it as well, because there's you always know the name of it, I always forget, the South American site that's got abandoned, and it's got these massive heavy stones.
Oh, Puma Punku, the H block stones up in the
and that's supposed to be done by hand,
isn't it, I think?
Peru, yeah. Well,
7,000 feet above sea level, and you've got 20-ton blocks, 40-ton blocks that somebody's carried up a mountain.
Seems unlikely, but then some of the machining seems too perfect, even after, you know, a couple of thousand years. But
Erosion,
anyway, if we go back to Gobekli Tepe, so why they built it is a mystery. How they built it is a bit of a mystery. I do think people are capable of doing amazing things if you've got enough of them. But this is, considering a time we're supposed to be hunter-gatherers, I'd have thought we'd have more important things to do than spend years carving out stones and moving them and standing them up. And
I don't think hunter-gatherers by definition are not performing agriculture. They're hunting and gathering food.
Yeah, and this is another point. There was agriculture on this site.
Until you move on, they're not hunter-gatherers, because there was agriculture. If there's agriculture, you're not hunters and gatherers.
No,
and
exactly.
You need the time freedom from not being hunter-gatherers and being agriculturalists in order to have that free time in order to build things. Otherwise, you don't have the time.
When they've done DNA, sort of looking at the agriculture they found a wheat, and they said it's the strand that you can see through time now, that we kind of still use today. So this is the first time we started to actually sort of harvest grain. So yeah, exactly. You could say these are the first lot of people that weren't hunter-gatherers. They don't seem to have lived there. There's been no evidence of dwellings according to mainstream science. And that is when I do yell, no, come on. It's not been found yet, maybe, but there is no way these people constructed this site and had agriculture, which again they found, and not lived there, or not lived nearby. And the other thing is as well, this Gobekli Tepe isn't the only site like this in the area. When they've gone and looking at other hills in the area, they found similar sites. Again, they've not dug these up yet. They've just using ground penetrating radar. Sites that aren't as big as Gobekli Tepe, but several of these sites in the surrounding areas. This was an important area for people. You're not telling me that they then used to wander off and come back and do anything. No, they must have lived in the area. in large numbers as well.
If you just think about how long it takes to travel before the modern era of transport of machine transportation,
everywhere.
They're walking everywhere. So you can't. I mean, they said that about Stonehenge as well, don't they? Where they find, was it lamb bones from Scotland there? So they reckon people
used to travel from
Which
Scotland.
I do believe that they could, maybe for a festival like once or twice a year, like the summer or winter solstices or the equinoxes, or maybe all four, and do four.
Definitely, it was a meeting point, wasn't it?
And given the the astrological alignments of these ancient sites with these monolithic blocks, I think that it's quite likely that, given that Stonehenge perfectly showcases the equinoxes and the solstices, then that's when they may have travelled there for a big thing. But you'd have still thought there would have been some people permanently resident in the locality. You wouldn't have thought everybody just flocked into that spot then and nobody lived there for the rest of the time.
I think we can fairly and safely say on that one that mainstream is talking out of its backside. It's another one of these things that it's because that's what we believed. Then we find a site, and certain people with degrees seem to take a very long time to adjust their thinking. That it's just common sense. These cannot have been hunter-gatherers. If you go on Wikipedia or whatever now and look at Gobekli Tepe, it says hunter-gatherers about 9 times. It's just nonsense.
But that's because it fits in with the current ideology of the mainstream viewpoint, which people have been giving out PhDs on from various universities for decades, and they don't really want to have to go back and go, we were wrong.
Yeah. It seems to be very rigid thinking, isn't it?
You know,
a long time.
It's basically saying that everything that person's done in their life, who's been a professor in history and been given out Egyptology degrees, for example, they've got to go back and go,
yeah. I know we need to find the evidence, we need to find the structures where it was lived, but if we live in wooden huts, they might not be there anymore. But I know we need to find those, and we need the evidence. But come on, have a little bit of common sense.
Yeah.
This site would have taken years to build as well. That's the other thing. They weren't just popping in and out to build this damn thing. Somebody lived there. Anyway, then we get to the really weird thing with Gobekli Tepe, that at 8000 BC it was purposefully buried. Now, Graham Hancock originally believed that it could have been buried due to some sort of cataclysm, but then as the evidence has come in and we've built up things, it is obvious that it was purposely buried. It was purposely buried using mostly sort of flint, but there was like animal bones, and it seems that anything and everything they could get their hands on was used to then bury this site. And we're talking 2 or 3 meters deep.
Yeah,
they buried it. Buried it well enough that, again, even when some of the stones were exposed, they were just believed to be gravestones or heading stones or something. And it was hidden for, 8,000-9,000 years.
Yeah.
So really effectively, people
they effectively buried it.
Yeah. Why? Why go through that effort? That would have been a monumental effort in itself to bury that site. Why not just abandon it?
Well, that's a good thing, and I don't think they really know. I have thought of one interesting theory for that. Maybe it was warring rivals, and the winners buried the losers' city.
Almost like a but again, why not just destroy it?
Maybe
why not knock the pillars over and.
Well, because if you bury it, it looks like it was never even there, doesn't it?
Just wipe it from existence.
You wipe it from existence almost. Maybe it was a statement. That's the only thing I could think of.
I think if it was a war and faction, though, no, it's definitely a possibility. If it was a war and faction, though, and you wanted to think, I think actually like desecrating the site would be more.
Yeah.
Just like this is what we think of your religion, and that's
spiritual. Desecration.
That's what we normally do, isn't it? When we go in and you think about bloody ISA, and this is when they were spreading. This is one of the things they did. They blew up all these old ancient churches. They destroyed so much history.
Oh God, I hate to think of the number of artifacts that we've destroyed in the Middle East over the occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan.
We try to rub out their beliefs, don't we? I think we said about this in another episode, didn't we? That when an invading people come in, they bring their ideas and their beliefs in, and then we're sort of like you're wrong, we're right, but they have to then try to rub out that.
Yeah.
that thing as well. When we get into talking about Christianity, that's fascinating how they absorbed certain aspects of like Christmas Day. They call it Christmas. Jesus wouldn't have died at this period, but they've picked that day because before that it was a pagan holiday. It was the winter equinox sort of thing. So that's why that date was chosen.
Which just further adds...
It just rubs out the old religion.
Well, it rubs out the old religion, but it also further adds evidence, in my opinion, to organised religion just being a control mechanism orchestrated by the powerful to control the masses.
But that's series 3.
But that's another series, yeah.
We've planned ahead. That's series 3. So I've had a bit of a think about this. One thing I thought about was, would it have been better if they thought the site was cursed somehow, or something like that? They were almost trying to erase it themselves. I have two thinkings on this, right? Either the people that were living there were having to move away, so they buried it thinking they would return. So the site was important enough to them that they were trying to protect it.
Okay.
So that you bury it with the thinking of the return, but they never did return, obviously. Maybe the desertification was coming in, they had to leave because their numbers couldn't survive there anymore. Possibly. They bury the site, hoping that the rains will come back, and obviously they never did.
Maybe.
Turkey's still
I still think it's a hell of a lot of effort to just bury a site, though. But there's got to be some reason.
The thing is, again, if I said they thought it was cursed. So
maybe. If it was a spiritual place and religion was probably prevalent back then.
They were scared to destroy it. Because, again, they thought it was the gods or whatever. But wanted to erase it, or didn't want people. They were almost protecting other people from it if they thought it was cursed somehow.
Yeah, okay, I could buy that if they somehow thought it was cursed. In that film where they find a Egyptian tomb that had been written out of the history books or something like that, and she buried herself because that was it. She was a carrier for the plague.
Oh, she was just trying to protect other people from the disease. So she was
trying to protect the people from the disease. So she went in
the middle of nowhere, and then we dug her up.
In the middle of nowhere, and we dug her up, and then we released the plague again. That's the whole premise of it.
Well, that could be a similar thing. Maybe there was some sort of plague, but they blamed the site, or they thought it was the site.
That's where I was going to go with it.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And so then again,
something they didn't understand that was causing death.
So they thought it was a site, but it was too important. They didn't want to just destroy it, so they buried it, or they couldn't destroy it, or they thought destroying it wouldn't help, so they buried it.
Yeah,
that would actually make sense more for like some sort of disease. I could see that they think that I can understand the logic of burying it, because then you're sort of you're protecting people from the thing, and you're burying the problem, aren't you? And like we do with nuclear waste and things, we bury it. In the hope that it won't cause us problems in the future.
The Ark of the Covenant, there's an interesting one as well.
Yeah?
That's a nice, interesting, mythical
item,
isn't it? The Ark of the Covenant. There's an idea that was supposedly some kind
destroyer
of nuclear reactor.
As well, yeah.
Some kind of nuclear reactor or something like that. So when people opened it, they died.
That's why they were dying.
Nuclear radiation.
Well, it's supposed to be a weapon, wasn't it?
It's possible. I don't know how much credence there is to that, but
we'll go into it. And we'll watch Indiana Jones again, just to brush up on the history.
It's when we were watching that thing recently with Bob Lazar, the new making of it, and he said, "Well, imagine taking a nuclear reactor from today and dropping it back into Victorian times,
and seeing what
people would do with it. They'd go and investigate it. They'd open it up. They'd die." Somebody else would go in there to try and figure out why the first person died, and they'd die. And then the whole mythology would come up, and they'd think it was cursed and that people just died, but they wouldn't know why.
Exactly. Yeah.
So sometimes the unexplainable
is explainable. You're just in the wrong. You don't understand the context or the
your understanding. Your scientific understanding isn't high enough yet to understand it. So it's still myth.
Most definitely.
But that's what I think we're slowly finding with some of these ancient stories from some of these ancient cultures. As our understanding scientifically is getting better and better, we're going back and going, oh no, that wasn't just a myth. That
makes sense.
That makes sense now because of
and I think the technology.
And I think we're just going to keep doing more and more of that, which is good because it will start bringing more light onto more areas of our
We are going to talk about ancient
Development.
technologies coming up, but there's some amazing ones like the like the ancient batteries and ancient clocks and things like
yes,
this
the
that we
Baghdad
discovered.
battery.
Yeah, we've got some fascinating ones coming up, and I think we'll be looking at them possibly in series 2.
Yep.
So, right, so Gobekli Tepe.
That's a big sigh there, mate.
I just, I don't know what to make of this site.
I think
It's-
more investigation's needed, and they've only
Wow.
unearthed about one or 2/50ths of the site, haven't they?
Yeah.
Now, or something like that.
Yeah, it's a massive site, and they've dug up one of these things. So it's a few football pitches.
Yeah.
It's a massive site. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of the burial. That's what really. This site would be fascinating on its own because it's the most ancient site we found, and that's another point. It's the most ancient site we've found.
Ah, exactly.
We've only found this in the
Found.
last few years. What else is out there that we haven't found? And we haven't sort of connected this to Atlantis yet, but I'm going to now. Yeah, so the date is exactly dead on where we think Atlantis was destroyed, or when Plato says Atlantis
Plato
was
says
destroyed.
Atlantis sunk into the sea, which exactly coincides with meltwater pulse 1b of the Younger Dryas climate period.
This year of 9600 BC, there was a lot going on.
The building of Gobekli Tepe. So
By
a lot
refugees.
seems to be going on around this specific time, doesn't it?
Was it built by refugees of Atlantis? It would explain
possibly.
how they knew how to do it. And the refugees of Atlantis might have built this as a shrine or as a as a
Mars.
worship area because of what they'd just been through. And again, they may have believed that they were smited by the gods, so they had to
Please the gods
Please
by
the gods.
building a
So-
new religious centre or building for them. Yeah, quite believable. However, the architecture and the engineering design in some of these ancient monolithic sites leads me to believe that perhaps they're not as religious as we think they are. Because we're not very religious now today in the scientifically developed countries. In fact,
Yeah.
you find where the populations are very well educated, religion is on a serious decline.
Yeah.
It's only in the countries that are poorly educated where religion still seems to have a stranglehold on people's day-to-day lives.
America's the exception of that rule, but yeah.
If you're, America's a bit of an exception. But so if you're capable of understanding high-level mathematics, Pythagoras, engineering, construction methods, architecture, I don't think you're that religious. Sorry.
Possibly.
I just find that very hard to believe that you're suddenly
So then what would you say that Gobekli Tepe was for then if it wasn't a
I don't know.
spiritual site?
I don't know, but they tend to label all sites as spiritual sites. Everything
Well,
that's a
I
tomb.
was going to say as well, we should separate religion and spiritualism though as well, shouldn't we really? Would you call the Native Americans religious or would you call them spiritual?
That's
Because I
a
would
good
say
point. That is a good
it's-
point.
It's maybe different, isn't it? And then-
Spiritual, probably in the sense of the Native Americans, because they don't force anybody to live in a certain way, do they? But it's just about being in tune with nature.
It's almost celebrating nature and trying to connect themselves with nature rather than gods. Even though they call them gods and spirit guides and things like that, it's not a god in the way sort of Christianity is. And this site seems like that to me. It seems more like a sort of a spiritual trying to connect them. In Christianity, we don't have a lot of imagery of animals and things, do we? Really, but this site does, and they do seem to be trying to connect themselves to nature in very physical ways. This seems like a spiritual site to me,
so I
not
could
a
agree with that.
religious
Yeah,
site.
maybe it's a spiritual site and not a religious site. I'd perhaps go with that. Perhaps not. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could go with that. I could see how that we may have lost our way in the current sort of right-brained way of thinking, all mathematics and technology, and lost the spiritual side. Maybe this ancient culture still had that spiritual connection, as well as having the right brain, architectural design,
Definitely,
construction, etc. So yeah, spiritual, but I don't think it's a religious site of the organised religion of that people
No, it
of
doesn't
that
seem
time.
to be, does it? Well, anyway, it's a fascinating site. It's the most ancient site, and I'm hoping it's not the last time we're going to find a site.
I'm
like
hoping
this.
it's not the most ancient site that we found within the next 10 years. To be honest, hopefully, I hope we'll find something older. that smashes it. In fact, we probably already have. I personally believe that the pyramids at Giza are far older than we're told they are.
Pyramids of Giza are so interesting, and the surrounding things that we are going to be doing an entire series on. I think.
Yeah,
can't do it in a couple of episodes. It's too much.
There's
stuff.
too much. What was there? 129 pyramids in Egypt.
I don't know, but we're going to be going on. Yeah,
something to
and
that
construction,
that effect.
And we have a theory on that as well. Anyway, so if you're new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. And yeah, that's Gobekli Tepe covered. It was built by aliens, so we'll just go with that.
It's always aliens.
It was always aliens. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.
Welcome to brief. I know where it's Gotta check with pretty.
Just trying
I
to
keep
get
having to pull my t-shirts down because I'm developing quite large man boobs, and I can see it in the video. I can see my nipples, sort of thing. It's not pretty, so I have to keep making sure my t-shirts.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, this is a chunk of it.